And if we do drop again, what I'm going to do is just log back in. So just stay in the webinar and I'll be back. Okay, so good. You guys can hear me. First of all, thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate you taking time throughout your day here, especially around lunchtime. If it is still lunchtime, because we're all on different schedules now. So what I'm going to do is spend about 15 more minutes to give you some more information. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and okay, so we're going to start this PowerPoint, okay? So what I wanted to speak to you about, and this has a lot to do with what I am doing on Facebook right now, is the effect of your mind on your immunity. And that's a part of boosting your immunity that people hardly ever focus on. Your mind is a powerful thing, so it controls so many things in your body. And so I want to show you how this actually works. What I'm going to do is introduce this to you, and then we'll have a part 2 webinar here in the next couple of weeks, hopefully within the next week, since you guys are at home. I want to make sure you have the information. So what we're going to do is start out with basically how the immune system works. So on your screen, you should see the PowerPoint, and in the top right-hand corner, you see me. If I block any part of the PowerPoint, that little screen, just minimize it and I'll disappear. Okay, what's more important is not me, it's more of what's on the screen. So first of all, what is the immune system? So your immune system works 24/7. It never stops. It's so complex to the point that it's so hard to even go over the surface of what your body does when it comes to defending things that are not supposed to be in your body. So if you look on the screen, it's a complex network of cells and organs that defend the body against anything that's not supposed to be there. So it can be an infection, like a virus, a bacteria, parasite, something that's foreign to it. It already knows to get rid of it. The main parts of the immune system are your white blood cells, your antibodies, what's called the complement system. Everyone knows about lymphatic, but there's a system within the system of the immune system, and it's called the complement system. Of course, your lymphatic, your spleen, and a lot of people don't know that your bone marrow is included in defending against foreign pathogens. And then also there's a gland called the thymus gland that's very important. So I put here on the screen so you can have a visual. So here you see the thymus is actually located in your chest cavity. Your bone marrow is included, and then also your spleen. Your liver is also important. Your liver does over 300 different activities throughout the day. It's one of the most important organs that you have. But what I wanted to show you was actually where the thymus gland is. And many people have heard of thyroid, which is different. That's located in the neck. But the thymus gland is very important as well. So the cool thing about the immune system is, for example, your heart. You know your heart pumps. You can feel it, right? You can feel it when it speeds up. You can feel it when it feels like your heart's gonna jump out of your chest. So you know that it's there. But the cool thing about the immune system is it's a silent defender. So unconsciously and unawareingly, it's always working in the background. So even though you're not aware, 24/7, it's protecting us. So there's 2 types of immunity. There's immunity that you're born with, and then there's immunity that you acquire over time. So let's look at what's called innate immunity. That's the type of immunity that you're born with, okay? It's very nonspecific, but it has laid the ground enough to be able to fight organisms off like it's supposed to. So some examples of that are your skin. So your skin itself has its own immune system. It's so complex, you would never believe that all this happens in your skin. So your skin is not just to protect you from any damage from the outside. And it's not just to be pretty, but it also has its own immune system. Then there's some chemical barriers. There's some chemical things inside your body that innately block pathogens that aren't supposed to be there. Here I put a chart, okay? So we're gonna compare innate immunity, what you're born with, to acquired or adaptive immunity. So over here is innate, and over here is adaptive. So with innate immunity, it's non-specific, but there's multiple components that protect against a wide array of substances. The difference with acquired immunity is that it uses what's called lymphocytes. They're like the soldiers in your body, but each soldier has a specific role, and that specific role is to attack a specific antigen or foreign particle that's not supposed to be there. When we look at innate immunity, we have the skin, like we just talked about, and then you have your mucous membranes. So you have the ones in your nose, your eyes, your mouth, the ones that's located in all your orifices. And also, like Katie just talked about, in your intestines, for example, you have mucous membranes that play an important role in making sure certain things do not exit out of the gut or the intestine and into your bloodstream that will be foreign to your body. So innate immune system uses cells, it uses chemicals, and for example, let's say you cut yourself, you don't want it to get infected, but if it did, you would have some inflammation. That short-term inflammation is supposed to happen. Fever is a natural thing that your body is supposed to do. It raises the temperature in your body so that it breaks down all the proteins of the bacteria or pathogen so that it will kill it. So to a certain point, you're supposed to have a fever. Okay, now adaptive immunity, you have the formation of what's called your antibodies. So antibodies are the part of the immune system that you have to acquire over time. So let's look at the second line of defense. Okay, the first line of defense was innate immunity, and this is acquired. So just to recap, it's acquired through exposure to pathogens. And then also you can either get it by being exposed to an infection or being exposed to that antigen or foreign particle, or from another person's antibodies. So that part we'll save for part 2 because many people don't know that that's a form of treatment, okay? So acquired or adaptive immunity uses lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are the cells responsible for the body's ability to distinguish and react to almost an infinite number of different foreign particles. So even though we're only going over the basics of the immune system, already it's complex, right? So the only thing I want you to know is that your body is so smart. It already came prepared. But the cool thing is, even if it comes in contact with different things, it's ready to fight it off. So your body has the ability to already fight off any pathogen. We just have to be able to give it what it needs in order for it to be able to do what it's supposed to do. So lymphocytes. So maybe through reading or through TV, you've heard something about T cells or B cells. What are those? So your T lymphocytes are here on this page. And then you have your B lymphocytes. Okay, and both of these are part of adaptive or acquired immunity. The thing I want you to notice is over here, you have what's called humoral immunity. So you also have an immune system in all the fluids in your body. The fluids in your body are called your humor. So that's where the term humoral immunity comes from. So your humoral immunity makes B lymphocytes. Those end up making your antibodies. Okay. Now, just in summary for acquired immunity, you can either get acquired immunity passively or you can get it actively. So actively, of course, the thing that may pop in your mind is, okay, I'm exposed to an infection or to a pathogen. Of course, that's naturally acquired. Artificially acquired would be a vaccine. So that would be here under active immunity. So you're actively getting that exposure to that antigen put into your body. Okay, so this is an active process. The passive process is cool, and you may already know this. So you can naturally acquire antibodies. For example, when a mom is pregnant, she's passing her antibodies and her parts of her immune system through the placenta to the child. So that's a naturally acquired way. But you can also artificially have, sorry, my internet connection was dropping. You can artificially have an acquirement where you have a transfer of serum that contains antibodies, either from another person or from an animal, okay? So what I'm gonna do is pause this, and if you guys can still see the presentation, do you mind just typing in the chat section? Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Kathy, Jennifer, and Claudia. You guys are awesome. All right, so let's continue. Okay, let's bring this back up. I think the internet is exploding because we're all on the internet. So here's the question I want to ask you guys. If we have all this defense in our body, we're born with it or we acquire it, then why do we still get sick? So I want you to think about that here in a second. And if you know the answer, or think you know the answer, then type it in the chat section. I want you guys to participate, okay? So this is, again, a good segue to what Katie was talking about. The most important reason is stress, okay? Now, like she said, we can't run away from our stressors, but you can give your body what it needs in order to better adapt to those. So there's 3 types of stressors. You have emotional stress, which I think we all are under that stress right now, okay? Then you have physical stress, which could be a disease. It could be something where you have a trauma. And then there's chemical stress, which includes what Katie just talked about, the nutritional part. So if you put in a lot of unhealthy things into your body, that's a stress on your body. So there's 2 ways that stress occurs in your body. So it can happen short term, or it can be a continuous process where it becomes chronic. So let me tell you, in summary, the quick physiology of what happens when you are under stress for a short period of time. So the first thing that happens is you have a release of stress hormone. What's one of the major stress hormones we always hear about? It's cortisol, right? So the stress hormones prepare the body to respond. So if you have, for an example, we like to use this example, if you have a tiger running after you, this is an acute response, okay? So stress hormones are released, your heart rate, your blood pressure automatically just goes up. Your body goes into that sympathetic mode. The reason your heart rate and your blood pressure goes up is in order to get blood and oxygen to your muscles to get away from that tiger. Another thing that goes up is blood glucose. So you have a bunch of sugar, you have a breakdown of what's called glycogen in your body. It starts to break down so that glucose can be released into the bloodstream and go into those muscles in order to give you energy to run away from that tiger. Then you have an increase of fats and cholesterol in the blood. Short term, that is okay. Long term, it is not. So short term, the reason that happens is if that tiger scratches you or bites you, you need the fats and cholesterol in order to start wound healing. Also, cholesterol is one of the major building blocks for the hormones in your body. So that good cholesterol is actually, the reason it's good is because it helps with hormone production, among a ton of other things, but that occurs as well. You also have an increased feeling of fear and anxiety, okay? And the reason of that happens is so that your brain can focus, right? That fear and anxiety causes you to focus on what is causing your stress to increase. Another thing that happens, you ever notice that your memory goes down a little bit when you're stressed? Or your ability to learn and comprehend and concentrate goes down? Well, there's a reason for that, and I'll go over that here in a second. The reason that is suppressed is because while you're in fight or flight, your body doesn't have time to remember things and learn things. It's not the time for that. It's the time for survival. You have a decrease in serotonin. I know some of you have heard what serotonin is and what's its function. Serotonin can affect your mood, okay? It also can affect your sleep patterns. You also have an increase in adrenaline, okay? We know what that is for. Now, one thing that happens is that you have an increased sensitivity to pain. So again, if that tiger strikes you, you want to know that the tiger has struck you, okay? So, but you will know at a higher rate, okay? And a higher sensitivity. Another thing that happens, which Katie talked about, is the immune system is suppressed. Your growth and sex hormones go down, but your bone loss goes up. Why? Because these, again, are things that aren't important right now. What's important, again, is survival. So these are okay to happen short term. Let's look at what happens when we undergo stress long term. Okay, so when the stress hormones go up, which is the first thing, if your heart rate and blood pressure is always high, it's going to result in heart disease and hypertension and heart attack. If your blood glucose continues to be high, you're going to have a lot of diabetes. You're going to have dysregulation of your blood sugar. That will also increase your weight, especially around your stomach. Increased fasting cholesterol, okay? We know hardening of the arteries, we know stroke, cardiovascular disease, obesity. So you can see how stress results in disease. Increased feelings of fear and anxiety can result in depression, bipolar, and other psychological problems. When you lose cognitive ability, it can result in ADD, ADHD, job struggles, ineffective family life. Decreased serotonin, increased adrenaline, chronic fatigue syndrome, chronic pain that just seems to never go away, insomnia. If you have increased sensitivity to pain, you can get fibromyalgia. Y'all heard that before, right? Again, chronic pain. So if you suppress your immune system, you're always stressed. This is a chronic issue. If you don't do something to help your body to better adapt to it, this is where you get disease. This is where you get, your body's more prone to cancer and other diseases. So again, it's not to take away the stress, but you want to set your body up. And sometimes you want to be able to trick your body. And I'll show you how to do that here in a second. So have you guys ever heard of Dr. Bruce Lipton? He is a very famous doctor who did a very cool experiment, okay? So his experiment was to demonstrate how the body reacts to stress and how the body reacts to nutrients. So he got 2 petri dishes. He put cells, tissue cells, in both petri dishes. In one petri dish, he put nutrients next to the cells. In the other petri dish, he put toxins, which is, I guess you can say, an example of a stress, okay? So he put them back in the incubator. He let the cells do what they were supposed to do. And so I have a question for you. Where do you think the cells were in each experiment? What do you think happened to the cells in the petri dish with the nutrients and the petri dish with the toxins? Let me give y'all a second to see what y'all wrote. Okay, so some of you got it right. So here were the results. Here were the results of what happened with the two petri dishes. So the petri dish with the nutrients, the cells actually migrated towards the nutrients. And this innately happened. He didn't do anything. Then the one that had the toxins, the cells repelled. They actually started going away from the toxin. Isn't that cool? So the petri dish with the nutrients had a positive energy. Cells like positive charges. They like positive energy. The cells with the toxins, they close themselves off, actually. Okay? So putting this in the perspective of our body, your cells cannot be open to receive nutrients, and they can't be closed off at the same time. They have to be one or the other. This is in your whole body. The cells cannot move forward towards growth and function, and they can't move backward and repelled against function at the same time. It has to be one or the other. So again, your cells in your body are either in growth phase or they're in protection mode. So they either have their arms wide open to receive nutrients or they're closed off. And this is a actual research that was shown, okay? So this is a picture here, and I apologize, it's a little blurry, but this is showing the cells, basically, okay? So just to give you a visual, the cells can either go towards a positive environment, which in this case were the nutrients. And if the cells go that way, they're able to function like they're supposed to. They grow like they're supposed to. They replicate like they're supposed to. And the opposite of that is repulsion. So if it's in a negative environment, then it goes into protective mode. So this is what I want you guys to really get out of this, is that your mind perceives whether the environment is negative or positive. Nothing in your body functions until your brain and nervous system tells it to do it. But it all starts up here. So the cool thing is, if what it perceives is threatening, the brain is going to send signals to all the cells in your body and tell them to repel this negative charge. How does it do that? It does it through hormones. Hormones are signals. So have you guys ever heard of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis? It's a big name, but it's abbreviated the HPA axis. So the hypothalamus and pituitary are in the brain, and then your adrenal glands are a walnut-sized gland that sits on top of your kidneys. That's where a lot of your hormones are released, through your adrenal gland, especially adrenaline. So let's look at the hypothalamus. It's the part of the brain that interprets the perception of your environment. If you look at this picture, I promise there's no test after this. But if you look at this picture, you'll see the hypothalamus here in the brain. And as you go closer to the brainstem, you'll see an organ called the pituitary. So the hypothalamus tells the pituitary to release hormones, and the pituitary, according to what it releases, is going to dictate what the rest of your body does. So the pituitary is called the master gland. It sends signals to 50 trillion cells in your body. That's a lot. So wouldn't you think that if this hypothalamus is perceiving everything and it's telling the pituitary what to do, don't you think it's important that we make sure that the hypothalamus is perceiving positive things? Yes. From the pituitary, say you're in a stressful environment, it's going to send a certain hormone to your adrenal glands. And your adrenal glands are going to release a hormone that will set you up for that fight or flight that we just went over, where the blood pressure increases, the heart rate increases, the blood glucose increases. That's going to automatically start a process. So imagine if this axis is occurring over, and over again. You get burnout in your body. So your stress hormones, once they are ignited and released from the adrenals, that's when you're going to have the blood from your trunk, okay? In your trunk, you have all your major organs. That's where you have the functioning. That's the life of you, right? So if blood is shunting away from that and going to your arms and legs, then your organs can't function like they're supposed to. And if that happens chronically, that opens you up for disease. The blood before was in the organs. So now, instead of your body going towards growth, health, and maintenance, it's now in protection mode. So you're stuck in a fight or flight mode. And now you're opening yourself for sickness. So let's look at a quick example. If you have a bacterial infection in your gut, and let's say you're being chased by that tiger, what do you think your body's going to shift more towards? Your body doesn't have time to fight off a bacterial infection. It's trying to get away and survive. So how much energy will your body put into fighting the infection versus this lion? It's going to put all this energy to get away from this lion. So in summary, your stress hormones shut off your immune system, and that is how that happens. So here's another tidbit. Many people believe that because they feel good, they don't have any disease. Well, here's the thing. The reason you don't feel it is, first of all, your body only feels 20% of what's going on in it. The second thing is, every day your body is fighting off and defending itself. It's using innate immunity and it's using acquired immunity. When it cannot adapt anymore and it needs help, you get sick. So when the stresses on your body are greater than the body's ability to adapt, you get disease. So not only do we have to treat the disease process, and for me, you treat the person, right? Whether that's naturally or medically, you have to treat the stress. You have to address it. So here I put, not only are the blood vessels squeezing the blood from the trunk and the viscera to the limbs, but guess what else is happening? It's squeezing the blood from your brain, and it's doing it in an imbalanced state. So it'll squeeze the blood and rush it to the front of your brain, your frontal cortex, and it's going to decrease your intelligence. So here, you can either be moving towards disease and protection mode, or you can be going towards wellness or growth. So you may be asking yourself what this zero or neutral point is. There are some cells that are neutral, okay? They don't go either way. We'll talk about that in part 2. So removing the stress alone will not be enough. You will be at 0 on the scale. So then, even though we cannot remove our stressors, you can retrain your brain, especially that hypothalamus area, to be able to perceive your environment more positively. So not only do you need to do that, but you have to include positive things in your life. And I put here, and you might think this is foo-foo, but you have to put love. You've got to put light and joy and happiness in your life. And so you might be asking, well, how do I get started doing that? Because I'm ready. Well, this is why I came up with the Mindfulness Wellness Challenge. So I did this to invite everybody on Facebook, but I initially did it to invite my patients. So I know my patients were going to be under extra stress. People are losing their jobs, they're getting laid off, and they're going to be in this chronic state. When this is all over, I don't want you to return to me as if you are in your worst state ever. I want to set you up to where We can boost your immune system by tricking your mind. And the way you do that is you have to do it actively. You can't just read about it. You got to actually do it. So I created the Mindfulness Wellness Challenge. And I put on here the link, which I'll put in the comment section here in a second. But you're welcome to join. And in this challenge, you have to be active. Why? Because you have to practice and retrain your brain. Okay? If your brain's always focusing on negative, 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 right? And always putting your body in protection mode, you got to flip it. And it's called neuroplasticity. Your body and your brain has this ingrained way of thinking and functioning. So you have to erase all that in order to flip it into more a positive state. So in this challenge, I put a way for you to do that every day. I don't get paid to do this challenge. You don't have to pay anything. I am using my time to make sure we are setting you up for increased functioning of your body. So make sure you join this. When you join, don't just sit back. There's a reason why I'm asking certain questions in the challenge. There's a reason why the challenge is set up and incorporates certain activities. Okay, so it's a 6-week challenge, and I know this pandemic may not be over in 6 weeks, but it will be something that you can continue on a daily basis. Some of these activities in the challenge are things that you have to practice. You have to practice every day. Mindfulness, as Katie was talking about, is something that many people have never heard of. They don't know what that is. But this way, we're teaching you what it is, how you can incorporate it into your life, and it's easy. We like easy. Okay, so if you guys don't have any questions, or I'll give you a second if you do have a question. And you may not have a question. Maybe you want to know more about something that we talked about. Please put it in the comments section. You know, you can send me a message. I have 6 different ways for you to contact me. You can do it through social media, email, my website. You can text me. And definitely let me know, because I want to be able to, while we're at home, to be able to learn. This is a time to grow, right? And not be depressed. So if you guys don't have any questions, thank you for joining me. I'm going to record this and upload it so you can share it with other people, and maybe you want to look at it again. Thank you guys so much.